being really fortunate being in this space since the age of 26. So I'm now 42. So I'm starting to become the old seasoned vet, I guess. But I saw so many times that exact issue, Chris, where it was the level of the planning that was done, the level of the service that was provided to that client was like very high level, very in-depth, deep work done really well. It was the packaging around it where it looked the same as everybody else. And I mean, the easiest way to see this, if you're a financial advisor out there right now, just go to your website, click services. And from my experience, 95% of all financial services firms look the same. It's the same ingredients, but there's no packaging. There's no actually saying, this is how we're unique and different and special, and how what you get here is different than what you get down the street. So maybe, I know you've worked with a lot of offices, kind of deconstructing that, packaging it. And one of your hidden talents is you're a great question asker. You should host a podcast because you're really good at questions. And it is a distillation process that I see you do really well, where you like pull it out of offices. So maybe speak to that a bit if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenge when it comes to this idea of how do I stand out, right? Like, how do I become preeminent, which is to be very distinguished in some way. The approach that most advisors take to try and to be different, to try and be preeminent or distinguish themselves, in my experience, is a very surface level, tactical, like let's try to come up with a good tagline. Let's come up with like an elevator pitch. Like, it's just putting lipstick on a different pig. I mean, if I can just be bold and direct, it's really not about like having the right messaging. It's actually a step before that, which is like really looking at your identity. It's like, who are we? Like really, like at a really deep level. And I have this real desire to have advisors and firms change the way they see themselves. So before we're going to change the way that prospective clients see us, before we're going to worry about their perception, we have to change our own perception of ourselves. Because a prospective client will not be able to see you any differently than you see yourself. And that's a concept that if people like, that's a deep concept. But so if you see yourself as another advisor who gives great advice and does good planning, well, then every prospective client out there will see you as a good advisor who gives good advice and does good planning. The problem is that's hundreds of thousands of advisors that fit in that category. So when I say change the way you see yourself, I really, really strive to help our clients not see themselves as advisors giving advice, but leaders providing leadership. And that's actually where this all starts. This is we're creating this identity around leadership. Because if you're an advisor who gives advice, that's okay. And you can even be giving great advice. The problem is advice just informs. But if you're a leader providing leadership, leadership transforms. And so you ask yourself, well, what industry would I actually want to be in? Would I want to be in the advice giving, informing business? Or would I want to be in the leadership providing, transforming business? And the other thing you have to recognize is the minute you go into the advice giving business, you're commoditized. You can get advice anywhere. But what's really rare, especially in the world we live in today, I think, is leadership. And people are desperately searching for leadership now more than ever. And so we've had so much success and helped firms have success by just starting to actually change the way they see themselves. Is like, yeah, we're not advisors giving advice. That's part of what we do, but we're really leaders providing leadership. And so that's the first place that I would actually, that I would start and that we do start, is we have a conversation around identity. And a lot of times advisors are like, well, I thought we were going to talk about messaging. I thought we were going to talk about like, taglines and elevator pitches and, presentations. It's like, yeah, we'll get to that. But all of that is actually driven by your identity. If you want it to matter, if you want it to be sustainable, if you want it to stand out, if we can have this deeper conversation around identity, like who are you? What do you want to be known for? What do you stand for? And how do we create in your organization this culture of leadership? Because if you can change the way you see yourself, you start to show up that way more, and you start to be experienced as a more confident, bold leader. Because look, I just don't think that most prospective clients going to sit down with an advisor, I don't think the reason they're there is for advice. They could get that anywhere. And they don't even know it, but the reason they're there is they're looking for leadership. They're really looking for someone to guide them and their family. So that's really what this is about for me, is we have to help them first change the way they see themselves. And I think that's a massive opportunity in this industry, is to realize like we're in an industry that can have a profound impact on people's lives for generations. And I think sometimes we don't see it that way.